Starter California edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, and we are in Ventura today, part of our roadshow. We are joined by a member of the California State Assembly, Jacqui Irwin, representing significant portions of Ventura County. What a beautiful county you represent.
Oh, we certainly do. The beaches and the mountains and the farm fields, it is lovely.
And it must be hard for you to fly to Sacramento every Monday to leave this beautiful Ventura County, but how is your new job?
It is really great. I'm meeting a lot of good people, and we're trying to be about good policy there. Most of the new assembly members will have 12 years to serve. And
new term limit regime.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of good things coming out of California.
Talk to me about moving from a city council like Thousand Oaks, which is a small to medium-sized city, and then going up to Sacramento, where you're a representative of a state of 38 million.
Well, it's first of all, it is, like I said, very exciting. But we're much more deliberative on the city council. So you get your book on Thursday, you study the 5 issues that you're going to be talking about on Tuesday, you go see the city manager, make sure that you understand everything, and the pace in Sacramento is just much, much faster. And now I'm trying to decide on 20 and 30 bills at a time. So you really need to count on your staff. And I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to make sure that I've gotten all my reading done.
I want to ask you also about a distinction. I've discussed this before. I can't remember if I spoke with you about it. One thing that I find interesting about California on the city council level, the county supervisorial level, there's something called the Brown Act. And the Brown Act prevents elected officials from speaking with a majority of the body about an issue that will be before the public. So for a city council like Thousand Oaks, I think there are 5 of you. So you can speak with one other person.
Exactly.
So I've always said, I've said this before, it seems anti-collaborative. That's just me, I'm one person. But in Sacramento, you can collaborate. You don't have that Brown Act. And so how is that, the ability to collaborate with Democrats, with Republicans, with whomever?
Yeah, it's a completely different story. I think, though, local people would say, well, what's good enough for us is probably good enough up in Sacramento.
It is.
Because there is an idea of everything is happening behind closed doors. So
but
you want to be as transparent.
But, I mean, look, business is business. We all collaborate. Does that mean it's behind closed doors?
Well, I don't think so. But I think what we're talking about is perception. So I understand why it's important to follow the Brown Act at the local level, and we just want to do everything we can to make sure that the residents of California trust the way that we're making decisions. So collaboration is great. But we wouldn't have a Brown Act violation anyway. There's no way that I'm going to be able to talk to that
You should be so
people.
lucky. I want to speak about the drought. The drought has been just so painful for so many of us. And I think about your district, beautiful coasts, there's ag in your district, residents as well. How are your constituents doing in kind of south central Ventura County?
I think everybody is very, very concerned. If you look at the residents, most people are starting to realize they're going to need brown lawns. Lawn,
whatever it is, right.
I started to see that in areas that I was walking last year. But the numbers that have been brought down from the state, I think in Thousand Oaks, they're expected to reduce their water use by 28%, and that is very significant. I am not sure how people are going to go about making those goals.
And let me ask you about that, because I think about your communities, Thousand Oaks, Oxnard, a little different, but fairly large lots. And when you have a large lot, that means you have a lot of landscaping. These people bought these homes before the drought. You know, it's almost like a bait and switch. I understand what we need to do, don't get me wrong, but how are they going to do it? You said it yourself.
Well, you're going to have to rethink everything. And California has been a desert, and I think, for a lot of us, for many years, we've been thinking this, you're not going to be able to maintain this. And so what I've really liked is there are all sorts of turf rebates now. And in my neighborhood, I've had at least 5 homes where they've torn down their lawns and torn out their lawns and put in some drought-tolerant landscape. It looks great. I think there are solutions. We just need to rethink the way we use water. And I've said it before, there is a lot more that we can do. If you look at Israel, they recycle 80% of their water. And we really need to start looking at solutions in Ventura County that are going to get us to the numbers that we need to be at.
And let's talk about one of those potential solutions, an Oxnard wastewater recycling plant. Decode that for us. What is wastewater? What is recycling? Because it can mean a lot of different things to different people.
Well, the Great Plant actually uses the water from the wastewater plant, and it basically produces pure water. Oxnard has done a very nice job with this plant. It's been opened in the last few years. A lot of it came from federal money, and it goes through RO, and then it goes through infrared. So the water is actually purer than drinking water. As a matter of fact, you have to add minerals back in because it's too corrosive. So they have an excellent facility there. The timing is right. Unfortunately, they have not yet put in the infrastructure to have the water delivered to farmers who are very interested in utilizing it.
So where's the water go now?
Well, right now they just were able to get some started on going to their golf course. So what we were
Which
able
is helpful.
It is certainly helpful.
Right.
There was a solution put forward by some of the users to use a temporary solution, which is the brine line to deliver water to the farmers. So it was stuck up in some regulatory issues, and I called the head of the State Water Board, and we worked through some of those issues. And so we think that we have a temporary solution that we can start getting that water going in Oxnard to the farmers.
And let's talk about the reuse of water, because I think there's a perception out there that recycling water may be okay if you want to water your lawns, or maybe for a swimming pool, maybe not. It's this whole, toilet to tap notion. And I'm just wondering if we need to rethink how we look at the reuse of water, because like you described, Assemblywoman, I mean, this water is so purified, you have to add minerals back in.
Right, and right now you cannot use that water for drinking water. It actually has to be injected into a well before it's actually drinking water. So that does need to be rethought. Some of the processes that are used right now, the water comes out extremely clean. But I don't think that our residents are really ready to get there. If they look at the situation, though, in many ways, toilet water is already
right. I mean, I got to think, if you think about it, it has to be what we're using. And look, I mean, this is America. I don't mean to be Pollyanna, but I would presume that, our water is going to be treated in a way that will be healthful.
Yeah, and eventually we'll get to that. There's a lot of other interim solutions that we can look at also. So in Ventura County, the groundwater is somewhat salty, so there's a lot of opportunity to do desal.
Can we talk about that? I want to talk about desal because, as you know, we've discussed this on the show, your friends in Santa Barbara County are, actually the city, I believe, they're building, or they're going to take a plant out of mothballs to create a desal plant. In Cambria, farther north, they're looking at desal, or they have a hybrid plant. Carlsbad has a plant. A lot of water in your district. I don't know if you knew that. You got a big ocean out there. Is this something we should look at?
You absolutely need to look at ocean desal, but that's way down the line because it is extremely expensive and it uses a lot of energy. So you're probably talking about $3,000 per acre foot. It's cheaper to have imported water, and the solution right now for Ventura County is looking at desalting groundwater. It's a much less expensive solution and using recycled water. So it's a big puzzle, and we need to try to get all those pieces in place.
But the reason I understand we need to desalt the groundwater is because there is intrusion from the ocean into the groundwater basin, because the groundwater is being overused. I mean, it's allowed to seep in. So where do we go with that issue, the groundwater and using too much?
Well, I think you need to manage these basins, and we're certainly looking at doing that in Ventura County. And when you look at the Oxnard plant, that is one possible solution, injecting that water back into the groundwater basin, and that's something that they're going to be using the water for.
How are your ag constituents doing? They're getting beat up in the press day in and day out. There's a perception that ag is not conserving. I understand that there are conservation efforts, so how are your ag constituents doing?
Well, in Ventura County, I think our farmers have been very innovative. They do things, they've looked at a lot of ways to save water, and items like biochar.
Right, I remember you told me about this.
Very much on the cutting edge. So I think the narrative really needs to change. Our farmers are growing our food.
The nation's food.
Well, California is growing the nation's food, absolutely. So they're doing what they can. There's a lot of land laying fallow, and we really need rain to solve this problem. But in the meantime, I think demonizing farmers is exactly the wrong thing to do.
Her name is Jacqui Irwin. She is a member of the California State Assembly, representing beautiful portions of Ventura County, where we are today. I'm Pomerance. It's Charter California Edition.